Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Biringer. I'm with Full Press Hockey, Full Press NHL, Full Press Coverage, and Full Press Media. Prior to this recording that you'll see here on the Full Press Hockey podcast, there was a tragic incident that happened Thursday after I recorded an episode with Max Miller of the Hockey News talking about the San Jose Sharks. It wouldn't be right just to post this video without a little tribute to what happened on Thursday night when the National Hockey League and the entire hockey community, along with the state of New Jersey and the entire world, lost two great men, two husbands, two fathers, and two sons in Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew Gaudreau. They were hit by a drunk driver while riding their bikes down in South Jersey. The entire hockey world and the world in general are mourning their loss. They're still mourning their loss to this day. But I wanted to come on here and send my condolences, my thoughts, and my prayers to the entire Gaudreau family, the entire world, state of New Jersey, as well as their family, friends, and every organization that they played for, including the Columbus Blue Jackets, Calgary Flames, and Boston College Eagles. Again, it just wouldn't be right for me just to post a video without having to mention this. You guys come on and see Max and I talking about the San Jose Sharks, but we're not discussing anything before that. So I just wanted to come on here and let you guys know that what happened in this video, discussing the San Jose Sharks, their upcoming season with Max Miller, is going to be dedicated to the entire Gaudreau family, to Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, to his brother Matthew, and to their entire family, because this is such a tragic incident, accident, tragedy that could have been avoided, should have been avoided, and we should have these two guys still here on this great earth. But again, this video is dedicated to the entire Gaudreau family. My thoughts and prayers are with them. Guys, enjoy the video, and please pray for everybody involved after this tragic incident.
It's time for the Full Press Hockey Podcast with Jim Biringer and Bruce Zeman.
Shoots! He scores!
And now, with a trip around the National Hockey League, here's Jim and Bruce.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Full Press Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, voice of Full Press Hockey, here with Max Miller of the Hockey News. He covers the San Jose Sharks. He's also the Canucks deputy editor. But today, we're talking San Jose Sharks. Max, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Busy off season for the San Jose Sharks. Very improved team. We got to start. Last week, they made some headlines on Friday afternoon on the East Coast, acquiring the young goaltender from the Nashville Predators, Yaroslav Askarov. Your thoughts?
Home run, honestly. It's almost Tomas Hertl for Askarov, right? Edstrom in the first, Vegas is first, most likely to Nashville plus Magnus Corona for Askarov, Nolan Burke in a third. But this is, since Martin Jones left, the Sharks have been looking for someone to play goalie as the number one guy, and Blackwood could do that for a little bit here, but Askarov is the guy of the future. He is you've been looking, and Sharks have been dying for a goalie prospect. They signed Romanov and Corona last year. It's like, okay, who are these guys? We want a goalie. They don't pick a goalie till the 6th round in this year's NHL draft. Okay, who is this guy? And now they trade for Askarov, a 22-year-old goalie. Development of the goalies has been somewhat of a challenge with Thomas Spear there in the beginning of Bakov, but I've heard good things about Spear and working with goalies, so hopefully he gets his hands on him.
Yeah, this is a huge get for the Sharks. Look, they signed him to a 2-year extension. We're at $2 million.
Yeah.
So, look, he is the goalie of the future, as we were kind of talking off the air. Now Blackwood's there, Vanacek's there as well, because obviously the Devils and Sharks made that trade last year for Kakinen. He's no longer with the Devils or the Sharks, and Vanacek's there, but he's coming off an injury. And, we've seen these 3 goalie situations, not work out, especially in Montreal. We saw that. Is Askarov okay with going down potentially to the Barracudas if he has to, or do you see him starting with this team this year?
I think he's okay with it. I think that shows in his contract. I think it kind of tells where his mindset was when it comes to Nashville, right? I think he would have been okay with Nashville if they didn't sign the starting number 1 goaltender who's a star in the NHL to an 8-year extension. I think he's willing to be a little bit more patient and willing to develop and do this. when he sees a future for himself. Because in Nashville, I don't think he wants to sit in the minor leagues for 3-4 more years while he waits for Saros to start to being on the decline, or if he's ready next year, then, or 2 years, because they have Wedgwood for a 2-year deal. If he's ready, then that's when the he would just start being a backup. So here there is a clear path for him to being in the NHL, and I think that 2-year deal shows that. Vanacek and Blackwood are both UFAs at the end of the year. I'd expect they'd keep one if they both perform well, but who knows? But I think the 2-year contract extension kind of shows that he sees a path for himself in San Jose, and he's willing to be a little bit more patient here than
Askarov is there. They trade for him. Obviously, he signs a 2-year deal. Do you see him starting in the NHL this year? Is he okay with starting in the minors?
Yeah, I think if he plays in the minor leagues, I think he's more okay with it. I think it's because there's a path for him here instead of Nashville. Nashville, right? He clearly signed the 2-year extension. He's willing to be patient here. I think he sees a vision for him becoming eventually a starter of the NHL with the Sharks rather than a star goalie with an 8-year extension in front of him. So I think he sees that, plan for him here. I don't think he's waiting. I think we're going to see him in the NHL this year. I mean, you have 2 fairly injury-prone goaltenders. Blackwood was healthy last year, but he still was a little banged up. Vanacek, obviously, as you said before, is coming off an injury. But he's going to see NHL time, regardless of if it's with injury or not. He'll be in the NHL this season. He's going to play more than 3 games he's played 2 last year, 1 the year before. So I'd expect him to play at least, maybe 10 to 15 games in the NHL this year. But I think his full time in the NHL starts after next season.
With the Sharks being such a young team, this is like the perfect acquisition, because when I heard his name on the block, I was like, okay, San Jose, Chicago, there are a couple other young teams out there that he can grow with. You got, Smith there, Eklund, obviously Sam Dickinson, obviously Macklin Celebrini, which we'll get into as well. I mean, this is a young team, but if you have the future up front and then the future on the back end and now in between the pipes, this rebuild / retool, whatever you want to call it, could be accelerated, and they could be a pretty good team in a couple of years.
Yeah, there's no way around it. You said retool. This isn't a retool.
Right.
This was a full tear down and rebuild. But no, this is I think they still need to add more to the defense prospect back end, but Dickinson and Mukamadulin are great. This is the one thing that Sharks fans and everybody who sees the Sharks is like, okay, what do they need? They kind of need a goaltender, something that you're going to build in the future. They've had some good ones. They've had some okay ones. In this rebuild, and Blackwood's been very good for them last year, even though maybe the numbers didn't say it. He's the reason why the games were not 8-1 every single night. They were 4-1, 4-2 because of him. But this was the one ad where it's like, okay, you need a stud goalie. And I like the fact they got one that's 22, speaks pretty good English if you've seen from talk. And then with the other thing is, the AHL All-Star Game was hosted by the San Jose Barracuda this year, and when Shakir Mukamadulin made his grand entrance to the skills competition because he was late because of weather, Yaroslav Askarov were hip by hip. I mean, they were tied at the hip. They were like best friends. So you have a guy who you brought in from the Devils and Mukamadulin, who loves playing here, very much enjoys it here, and you brought his best friend. That can only help development with a position that I feel is still a little thin in the prospects, but definitely building. So it was like the perfect ad, because this is the next prospect you had, the Celebrini, the Smith. You got Dickinson and Mukamadulin. Where was the goaltending? Now you have it in Askarov.
It's just such a great ad, and Mike Greer's done such a great job. I know there's been some criticism of what the returns have been for some of the players, but look, they got Mahukan Hamadulin, right, from New Jersey. Fabian Zetterlund was part of that trade as well. He is playing well for San Jose. I've loved that kid when he was in New Jersey. I love him there in San Jose. You can add him to the prospect pool and the young players of this team that is just growing. And now this is the back end of the offseason. The front end of it, July 1st, you bring in Tyler Toffoli, Alex Wenberg. They traded for Ty Dellandrea. Now they traded for Cody Ceci as well. You've put some veteran players around this young group. San Jose is starting to, look good on paper and going to be more competitive than they were.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to say there. They're more competitive. And nobody, I think, is expecting them to make the playoffs.
No.
If they would, sure. But I think that Pacific Division, 3 teams are probably going to get in and 5 are going to get in from the Central, in my view. It could be 4 and 4. But in the Western Conference, nobody's coming out of the playoffs. Will they be in more games? Yes. But you mentioned those returns of those trades, right? Especially the Carlson and the Meyer trades. It's like, okay, you got all of this. What did you get from? Well, The Sharks turned the Devils' first-round pick into Quentin Musty. They got Fabian Zetterlund, who led their team in goals with 24 last year. Shakir Mukhamadullin looks like a stud. And now look what you've done. Like, okay, you were like, why does Zetterlund? Zetterlund was great. Like, he popped. I think he could be even better this year. And then you mentioned the veterans, the ads. Like, it's just, you look at his initial moves, you're like, why would you do that? And then, like, same thing with the Cody Ceci and Ty Emberson trade. I liked Ty Emberson, but maybe they knew something we didn't, and the veterans. But who knows? I mean, clearly, if you've got questionables on his returns, they've seemed to have panned out so far.
Yeah, they have. I mean, look, San Jose, one of those teams back in the day, like the triangle of death when you went through California, San Jose, Anaheim, LA. It was just like, all right,
Good times. Good
if you
times out
come,
here.
yeah, it was great times if you were a Sharks fan or anybody in California. If you were a fan of another team, well, good luck. The best you could hope for was 2 or 3 points coming out of there because those teams were always good. But, the Sharks, very competitive, like I said. And obviously at the NHL draft this year, first round, boom, Macklin Celebrini, number 1 overall. But then at 10, I believe, later than that, they got
11, yeah.
11, right after the Devils pick. They get Sam Dickinson, 2 cornerstone pieces. How can you pass that up?
Right, and they had a choice. The day before they moved up from 14 to 11, they had a choice. Did they want Zeev Buium or did they want Sam Dickinson? Buium's a great player, higher offensive outside. Sam Dickinson looks like a complete, total two-way, 200-foot defenseman who can score 60 points, a Devon Taves type player who might be a little bit more offensive upside. I mean, that guy, Celebrini, Musty, Will Smith, Sam Dickinson is a legit number 1 prospect potential defenseman, and Sharks fans are going to love him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they did a great job. We were talking about it at Vegas that time in the draft back in June. Hot time, but a great time. And you even said it, man. First round, they killed it. Even in the second round, some of their picks were very, very good.
Chernyshov, Leo Sahin Wallenius, he's kind of like the question mark for me. He was when I was kind of on the off board. Chernyshov was seen as like a top 28 prospect in the draft. He's a big guy. I mean, Chernyshov I like too because they have some good negotiating. They got Kasper Halttunen over to juniors last year, but they did the same thing with Chernyshov. Chernyshov bought out the rest of his KHL contract, and now he's going to play for Saginaw next year. That's a good look. If I don't know how much the Sharks influence that, but if the Sharks are saying for their European players to come over, play a year in juniors, that gets them acclimated to the North American ice, and then they can go right to the AHL a year later.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a great job, Mike Greer, like we were saying, doing a great job rebuilding this team, making this team more competitive. Obviously, Smith's there, like we talk about Dickinson, Celebrini, but then, obviously there's Eklund's there as well. Do you expect him to take another step this season as well?
Yeah, I'm currently in the midst of doing a Sharks fan survey, and he's the overwhelmingly favorite for who's the breakout candidate this year. I mean, he had 40 points last year, finished the season. I think he had points in 12 of the last 13 home games, and he had like 15 or 16 points in that time. And obviously he and Fabian Zetterlund, the Lund line as it's starting to be coined out here, Granlund, Zetterlund, and Eklund out here, seems to get some steam. I think Eklund is going to be a winger. They're not ruling out him playing as a center, but this is the year where I'm like, okay, let's see a step forward. He scored 8 goals. He scored 16 goals. 8 of them were on the power play. I'd like to see 20 goals this year, maybe another 8 on the power play, but his passing was so good last year. There was just nobody to put the puck in the net for him, and Fabian Zetterlund did a good job of it, but he's not Tyler Toffoli. He's going to score 34 goals. He's, Mikael Granlund's a passer, and Celebrini can score. Will Smith can score. Delandry can put it in. Grunstrom, Klim Kostin, Gaudreau. They have more guys that can catch a pass, not to slight anybody that was on the team before, but he was making all these creative plays, and, nobody could finish for him. So I expect them to be a jump because of the quality and the veterans, and they know what it takes. And then especially just another year of him being in the league will help him get more offensively inclined. And if you look at his defensive metrics, winger or center, it was pretty good. He held his own. He was above average, pretty far above average. Not, Mark Stone level good, but he was he wasn't a liability on defense. That is for sure. He worked his butt off defensively.
Yeah, and now, again, San Jose, they do all this in the offseason. Even before that, they made the coaching change. David Quinn out. I mean, look, like you said, you don't want to speak ill will of anybody. The tools in the toolbox for Quinn may not have been there, but this team did underperform, and that losing streak at the beginning of the year did not help anybody's situation, and he was probably not coming back. Ryan Wolfsowski takes over. What does he bring to this team that Quinn maybe didn't?
I think Quinn's a very nice guy, and I think Quinn has dealt with both in San Jose and here younger-ish teams, and his style kind of doesn't fit that. His style fits a little bit of an older generation where it's kind of chip and chase, go after it, work hard, where I'm not saying it was a bad system, but I mean, in the report that came out yesterday with Alexander Barabanov about, they played primitive hockey is what he said, and it kind of killed the player in you. I can understand that. I mean, he wants it shipped. He wants it hard. Elias Anderson said something similar after his tenure with the Rangers ended. Warsawski brings a competitiveness. I don't know what we're going to see in terms of systems until we really get into the year. He's very coy about that stuff. But I think with the young team, you have the youngest coach in the NHL, the 36-year-old, a guy who can connect with his players, a guy who's won at every level. He's won in the NCAA. He's won in the ECHL. He's won in the AHL. Like he's it's a guy that I think you can build with the team. He put a lot of veterans around him and his coaching staff, and Jeff Ulmer, Doug Huda, and he brought back Brian Wiseman, who Shark power play wasn't bad last year. Like to get it into the top 16, I think it was, or maybe 18 with that lineup, that's pretty impressive. So Brian Wiseman is back as well. He's going to help it out. But look, as a core, that coaching staff, I think, is there to help build this team and develop really well. We did speak with Doug Huda and Jeff Ulmer yesterday. Jeff Ulmer talked about, we asked him what his role, Huda's going to run the defense and the penalty kill. Brian Weissman's got the forward power plays. Jeff Ulmer said he loves developing players and working with his skill and creating those building up moments. So you got kind of a good trio. You got the guy who's going to manage the whole thing, power play defense, and then another assistant coach, which is rare to have 3 assistant coaches, who's going to focus on the development of the young players at the NHL level. How rare is that to hear that that's kind of what his role is going to be, but he's going to be behind the bench, not necessarily like he's a development skill coach. No, he's there to work on different plays of development, which can take all these young Sharks to the next level. Wiseman does a really good job kind of managing it and taking control. He's a genuine leader. When you talk to him, you can clearly see people respect him and people understand him.
And that's good, especially, with the young players in the league today. You guys want to be coached. They want to be, you want to hear your criticisms. It shouldn't be over the top, but if guys come with a great attitude, great mindset, it's going to help a young team like this. And obviously, one of those guys you hope could be around this season, we'll see, that can help this team is Logan Couture. Any update on that?
Yeah. Look, I've been on the side of, a lot of people, I'm like, he's done, he's not playing. And I've been on the side of holding out hope, but that hope is teetering for me. All of last year we got the updates, he's working hard, he's working out, he's around the guys, this, that, the other. And when he got back on the ice, it was good to see. But then after that, when January 31st went by, it was, he's working hard, he's around the guys, same updates. And then July comes around and he says, April comes around at exit interviews and he says, my goal is to get back on the ice in July. July comes and goes, nothing. Warsawski jumps on NHL Network Radio a couple weeks ago. He's working hard. He's in San Jose. He's working out. He's happy to be around the guys. I reached out to the Sharks and they said there's no further update. When Askarov was traded to the Sharks, we talked to Greer and we asked Greer, has he been on the ice? Greer said, no, he has not been on the ice yet. So that is a little bit of a concern to me that, if he hasn't been on the ice, if memory serves correctly, that means January 31st is the last time he was on the ice. And to go this entire summer without being on the ice, it's a bit concerning. Obviously, nobody's been ruled out officially yet. I'm of the nature, as you know in the business, don't rule someone out until they are officially ruled out. He's not been officially ruled out, but it's the last year, it's the same answers. He's working hard, he's working out, he's around the guys, he's in San Jose, he's in good spirits. He wants to contribute. Don't know if his groin will let him. Yeah,
it's a similar, maybe different, but similar situation. Obviously, I just want to pan over to Gabriel Landeskog in Colorado because it's a similar situation. At least you see video of him on the ice. He's moving, he's shooting. It's gingerly because the cartilage knee thing, we've seen other NHL players have it. They really haven't come back from it. Everybody's like, he's going to be back. We're going to try to make a run for it. And there's a part of me that says, it's like, yeah, but he hasn't really played a game in 2 years. Like, how effective
a while to get back. I look at Patrick Kane, right? He had the hip resurfacing, which a lot of guys don't come back from, and he's come back for it wonderfully. So who knows what these two guys can come back from? But with Logan, like there's no surgery to be done with this. It's a rest and rehab, and it's a pain tolerance thing more than anything else. If you get a chance, look at osteus pubis. Basically, his hip is like slightly out of alignment, so it's like a deep groin hip issue thing where it's only rest. Drew Amenda, one of the broadcasters here, he said he's dealt with it. Brett Hedican, who just moved on to the Ducks, he's dealt with it. I mean, it's a rest. It's a tough injury because it affects daily life too.
Yeah, it's just hopefully we get to see him come back, maybe play 1 or 2 more games for the Sharks. He's such a staple there. Guy that called it quits, retired officially. I believe he officially retired. You can quote me on this or correct me on this. Joe Pavelski, obviously he moved on from San Jose. I think everybody wishes he finished his career out as a Shark, but he had great seasons in Dallas and, went to another cup final. But, talk about, Joe Pavelski in San Jose and what he meant to the organization.
I don't think there's a more respected guy in the organization. I think he's up there in the aura of rankings of respect with Marleau and Thornton. Look, when your old GM comes out and says, I made a mistake and I didn't sign him in 2019 when I should have found a way to sign him. That's a guy who commands some respect from the room. I believe the number 8 should go up in the rafters. If it doesn't, I don't see another Shark wearing number 8 regardless. He is that much respect. I think he deserves to go up there, 7th round pick. I mean, he is arguably the best player from the 2003 draft. He's up there in the top 5, and he was the last, like one of the worst picks, like not worst, but latest picks in that draft. That's a guy who worked hard and was honest and commands the respect of a room. And I'm interested to see how Dallas does this year without him. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in the future he gets a front office role. I know he hasn't closed the door on a return here in some way. When he did speak, I believe publicly, he said, he hasn't closed the door for, he's like, I haven't, I've retired as a player, when he really emphasized as a player. The Sharks already have Marleau kicking in the organization with a development role. Thornton's around, who knows doing what, but he's around. Director of vibes apparently is what the gist was at the end of the draft. But they got Tommy Wingles around, Lucas Spies. All these four. They brought back Ryan Clough. They like bringing in that kind of realm of players from that era. So who knows what happens with him? But he is arguably one of the most well respected Sharks of all time.
I agree with you. I think 8 should be up in the rafters in the Shark tank. Marlowe's up there. I think Thornton's got to be up there too. That Sharks team. The team that didn't win the cup that probably should have won a cup was those Sharks teams. They were just so good.
Yep. Well, Thornton's numbers going up this year against Nashville early on, I believe in November. But Thornton will join Marleau, and then I think we'll see what happens with number 8.
Yeah, I agree. I think 8 should be up there. So back to the current establishment of these young Sharks, and we're kind of talking off air. I brought up the point, surprise team this season. And obviously, we talk about competitiveness. They're going to be better than they were. But I think, I think some people are miscalculating or underestimating the Sharks team, because I believe they're going to be a surprise team. Even though with all these additions, people can say, oh, how can you say that? They're improved and stuff. I think some people are still overlooking them.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument, right? You just traded for Cody Ceci. Cody Ceci doesn't have the greatest reputation amongst fans, and he's basically run himself out of all the Canadian teams. But veteran he kills penalties very well, and the Sharks have, that back end is still iffy, right? Jake Wallman, I like that ad, but you have all these young guys who maybe you can get that mindset. Oh, they don't know what it takes to win. We can push them around. All they got is Barclay Goodrow to protect them. They've got all these young guys. So who knows what's going to happen? Do they win more than 19 games? In my opinion, yes. Do they surprise some teams and maybe beat the occasional Tampa Bay Lightning or Toronto Maple Leafs? Yeah, once or twice this year. Maybe they'll beat somebody like that. They did last year. I mean, they went 3-0 against the Blues and screwed them out of a playoff spot. But I do think we see them in games. I think one of the when we mentioned Quinn before, I don't think it was the wins that got him. It was the way they lost. You had 10-1 and then 10-2 next night. 8-1's another night. Like, yeah, that's going to happen from time to time. They can't happen that frequently, and it was the way they were losing games. I don't think when they lose games, I think they're going to lose games of 4-2 with an empty netter or 5-2 in which it was 3-2 going into the third period, and they kind of gave up one early, and they just kind of lost. They ran out of steam. We're going to see more competitive games. We're going to see them hang on to leads late in games when they need it. I hope they get 25 wins is my hope for them. Adding 6 wins to their record doesn't seem like a lot, but if you can add 6 wins and improve on the way you lost, which sounds like such a crazy phrase to say, then I'd call that a successful season.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, let's be honest here. No one's really expecting the San Jose Sharks to light the world on fire. And like you said, they're not going to be a playoff team. But
who knows? Never know.
You never know. Things can go crazy.
Austin Matthews wasn't supposed to make the Toronto Maple Leafs a playoff team right away, and he did. So who knows?
They also had a lot of other guys on that team too. So, yes. but no, again, things can break certain ways. You never know. A team at the top we expect maybe slides off a little bit, but again, are they better than Anaheim? Maybe. They should be. They could be. The Calgary's a question mark in that division too. Obviously, the staples are up there. We know what the staple teams are up there. LA, they're Vancouver, Vegas, and obviously Edmonton, who went to the Stanley Cup final. Seattle, Seattle really hasn't impressed me this offseason with their moves. So, I mean, San Jose could move up in their standings in that Pacific division. Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, Vancouver, Edmonton are the two staples, in my opinion. Vegas should be good. Who knows with their injuries? And they didn't have the greatest of off seasons. Their time of reckoning, if you will, is coming at some point. LA, I'm not a huge fan of them saying we fixed our goaltending. We got Darcy Kemper. Like that's my exact. I was like, he's good. He was really good for you the first time he was there. You kind of saved his career, but but they've got a lot. I mean, Doughty, Kopitar, Byfield's taking another step. Brent Clark is there, right? They've got teams. I think they should make it, but the rest of the division, Calgary's rebuilding fully. Anaheim, the Sharks and Anaheim have similar prospect pools, but I like the Sharks more. I mean, Sharks started to rebuild 2 years after Anaheim, and they're already getting rated better as a prospect pool, so who knows? Leo Carlson is a great player. Seattle kind of just made moves. I like the Montour ad. Stevenson, I like the ad. It was an overpayment, but it's there's the team, the LA and Vegas for me should be there. They're the two teams where I'm like, let's see what happens. They got some depth issues, and both teams love getting hurt. Obviously, they're not to, but last 2 years they've dealt with injury.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Vegas didn't really surprise me, and I like your comment on Darcy Kemper. I made this statement when Colorado won the Stanley Cup. They won the Cup in spite of Kemper, not because of him, because, look, when he wasn't good, teams got to him. He did make the save when they needed to. But again, look, like you said, goaltending matters. Now, San Jose has their goaltender in the future. Full circle. Also, Blackwood was good in New Jersey. If he could have stayed healthy, he might still be there. Yep. Vanacek had the one good year. If he has a bounce back year, their goaltending is pretty set.
Right. And then if you look at that, both Vanacek and Blackwood are on UFA deals. Like, they're pending UFAs. I think the Sharks rate Blackwood much higher. I mean, the team loves him. Everybody that you speak to thinks and they all say this, we believe that he has potential to be an elite number one goaltender. Word for words, elite number one goaltender. He has the tools to do it. Vanacek could be a good goaltender where you've seen, okay, he's been good. He's played in the playoffs. He could be an option where come deadline time, if he could be one of the goalies that are like, okay, he's healthy. He looks good. Maybe last year he was hurt. Does a team look for a goaltender? The Sharks have 2 pending UFA goaltenders, and they've shown that they can move them before. So not to say they will trade Vanacek or if he will stay healthy. A lot has to go, right in that way, but they have options, and then you have Askarov ready to go, and he's signed for this year, and then the extension kicks in. So imagine if Askarov starts next year, and then that second year, the 2-year extension, he's still under RFA status. Like, this was such good business by Mike Grier to grab Yaroslav Askarov.
Absolutely great business. It was a great ad, great trade. What they gave up for him was good too. Works on both ends, like you said. I put it out earlier. I wrote about it. I've talked about it. He was never playing in Nashville. And you mentioned it too. He has a chance to play here. And I think, this is just my opinion, but I believe it's going to be Askarov and Blackwood moving forward in San Jose as the tandem.
I agree. I don't think they would be opposed to running 3 goaltenders this year. I think Askarov wants to be in the NHL and play hard, but he knows he needs to earn it still. Yes, he we mentioned it multiple times. He understands that he's still not maybe quite ready, but there was no path for him in Nashville with, to be a starter. And even in Barry Trout's comments, he goes, he's either going to be a great goalie for us or he was going to be a great goalie for someone else if we were to trade him. So if you're saying that you admit that you weren't going to play him as a starter obviously not right away, but like, it's going to take 6-7. You can't hoard a goalie that good for that long without him getting frustrated. Who knows? So we'll see. I mean, he's widely regarded as the number 2 prospect of all goaltenders in the league, and he could be seen as the number 1 as well.
I mean, there was a reason he went top 10 in the NHL draft. So
yeah, he went 10th overall.
Yep. To Nashville, David Poile, who's no longer there. But now San Jose's got him, and they got a great prospect pool. And I am actually looking forward to watching the San Jose Sharks play this year.
Yep, so am I. Last year was a bit tough, but just there's a lot to watch this year. Like we've mentioned the success. You got Eklund, Zetterlund, Celebrini, Will Smith. You got Shkimu Kamadulin. You got Blackwood, Askarov. Then you bring in Toffoli, Alex Wenberg, Couture if he's healthy. Like you got all these guys. You're like, okay, there's some storylines here. Mario Ferraro, some pending trade interests, right? Like this is a team that you could see is building towards something. Like the next step for my career is keep filling the cupboards, and then can you get them to move forward? You've got a lot of young players. Now it's time to put it all together, and you can't go full Buffalo Sabres, right? You need to be able to mesh and find a team. And clearly there's a style of player that Mike Grier likes. So it's big, it's strong, and a lot of people talk, the Sharks always got pushed around. I think that was a bad narrative that fans saw, but he's grabbed, Celebrini is not tall in height, but he's wide in stature. Musty's a big guy. Dickinson's a big guy. Shkimu Kamadulin's a big guy. David Zetterlund was bench pressing like 600 pounds a week ago. Like, they're not getting pushed around this year, that's for sure.
No, and then, like you said, Gaudreau's there too, which will be a storyline when he goes back to New York. And when the Rangers come in, I mean, that's going to be a great storyline. And you're the second person to podcast now that said my team can't be going, the team I cover can't be going full Buffalo Sabres, because my previous guest talking about the Canadians too cannot be going full Buffalo Sabres.
It's the concern. And, sorry to slight the Sabres. They've had all these prospects and they haven't been in the playoffs in 13 years?
Yeah, exactly. It could be 14 or 15. And I don't see that changing with that division. So it's going to be interesting. But I think the Sharks, like the Canadians, are going to be good in a few years. I can't wait for it. I can't wait to watch them. And I can't believe hockey is literally back in a couple of weeks. It's great. Yes.
Finally, yes. We'll see Macklin Celebrini on the ice in a couple weeks at the rookie face-off. We've got 7 teams there. I'll be there. It's hosted by the Kings this year in El Segundo. Should be streamed on all the teams' websites, I believe. But that'll be the first time we'll see Celebrini play an actual game in a Sharks jersey, and then preseason starts right after.
Hey, Max, thank you so much for doing this. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, sweet. Thanks for having me on, Jim. You can find me on Twitter at @real_Max_Miller. That's kind of the main place where you can find me. The Instagram's the same thing. But if you're looking for only articles, Facebook, just search me up. You'll see me on there. Give me a follow. But Twitter's the main go-to. Love interacting with people, and I'll bring you guys all the news. The website, just thn.com/MaxMiller, and that's where you can find all the Sharks stories that you need.
Max, thank you so much for jumping on a podcast today. It was so much fun talking San Jose Sharks with you.
The future's bright. Thanks for having me.
Hey, always a pleasure, guys. Don't forget, watch, subscribe, follow along. Full Press Hockey Podcast up on YouTube. Get it, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. I've been Jim Biringer. Max Miller from the Hockey News covers the San Jose Sharks, also the Canucks deputy editor. We'll have him on again real soon, guys. Take care. Enjoy the weekend.
Barry Trotz, Nashville Predators, making sure you're listening to Full Press Hockey Podcast.